Comedian's Paradise. For this episode, we are talking to, it is the podcast where we see the mavericks across the comedy and clown world. Now, today's guest has a world famous comedy book. Her book combines the most famous religious book in the world with the platform that brings the most joy to people across the globe. She is the author of the Comedy Bible. It is religiously followed by and used as a starter kit for a lot of comedians across the globe. And furthermore, she also wrote the New Comedy Bible, which is an update to that. But yeah, she is a remarkable comedy author. She has been in comedy probably just as long as I've been alive. No, I don't know. I should not have said that, but she's an absolutely amazing author. You're going to absolutely love her. And she's got a fantastic new book for you, the comedy book on making money being funny. Welcome, the illustrious, the lady with the surname of my favorite Rush Hour film, Carter, the surname, and Judy, like Judge Judy, my favorite judge. Welcome, Judy Carter.
Hey, what an intro that I've been alive that long. Yeah, I think I started writing books right when the American Revolution happened and we separated from the UK and the Boston Tea Party and yeah, all of that shit. So anyway, hey Marvin, good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. For anyone that doesn't know about you, tell us a bit about how you fell into comedy and how you came into writing your world famous book and what's led to you writing this new book of yours, Making Money Being Funny.
Well, let's just start with the new book because it's everything else I don't exactly remember. But let's start with the new book. My book before this, the New Comedy Bible, helped a lot of people take their problems and turn them into punchlines and write material from a real emotional, authentic point of view. And a lot of those people became famous. From a lot of the original Comedy Bible, which was written a long time ago, but a lot of people became very, very famous. And then a lot of people, really talented comedians, are still struggling. I don't have to tell you that the life of a stand-up is really difficult. And I hear that even headlining comics are sleeping in their cars because the clubs aren't paying them enough. And that's when I realized that I have to do something for my people. I have to show them that they can earn a living from being funny and they don't have to live in poverty and they have to understand that the gig economy is broken. It's just broken. It's and I see so many comics taking it personally. Well, maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. But that's not the case in most cases. Sometimes it is. But in most cases, it's, it's, the clubs just don't pay enough for you to buy a home, for you to support a family. So I wrote this book with very specifics of how you can get around the system.
Okay, so one of the things, so I had a great guest on a couple months ago, fantastic guy, very unique guy, Dane Baptiste, and he says that with a lot of self-help books, if they're so important, why aren't they being treated in schools? But the thing that I'm getting at here is a lot of self-help books try and say that they're going to solve all your problems, do it for you. And one of the things that a great comedy chick, Ivor Dembina, said to me was, you do this course, it's going to give you tips and advice, but if you're not going to learn how to be funny, like otherwise I'll be doing that. It's just going to be advice that makes you better. There's a lot of books, whether it be in comedy or other things, they say, we're going to sort all your answers out. And I think having that mindset that it's going to sort everything out is not the right mindset as. How is your book different to books that claim to be more than what they are?
Well, I don't claim to be more than what I am. First of all, I have gotten since this book, I'll hold it up. It's called Making Money Being Funny. It's my ninth book that came out. I've gotten so many calls from agents and publishers and going, you need to write a book about how we all can make money being funny, like what you're talking about, like expand it. And the answer is absolutely no. I only write for people who are funny because I know you. I know that what you're like. I from being a comedian my whole life, I know what it feels like to get a laugh. And I know, getting a standing O is better than the laying down kind of O. And I know what that's like. And so I will not be pretend to solve anybody's problems. I got enough of my own. But I do know in terms of problems or having problems that when you can laugh at a problem, it definitely becomes more manageable. And that when you based your material on everything that's wrong with your life, people relate. People go, "Oh my God, that's," and we all can share a laugh about the horribleness of the world right now. I mean, it's very helpful, but I have no idea how to cure people's problems. I'm only in it to help comedians. That's those you are my people. Bam bam, heart to you. I just love comedians and I will this is going to be well, I have one more book in me that I'm going to take out. It's going to be a whole different kind of thing. But in this series of writing the new comedy Bible and then the workbook that goes along with it and my formula for making money being funny, um, that's where I'm at right now. So I don't write self-help. I just I just write for a very specific niche.
So I mean, for any comedian across the globe, a lot of the problems comedians share are quite similar. They don't get paid, like you said, with gatekeepers, they don't pay enough. Also, getting paid very late and then sometimes not being paid at all. But with everything else
Most of
going
the
up,
time not being paid. "Hey, here are your drink tickets." Yeah, enjoy. Come on. I mean, no, we're gonna give you exposure. You do this gig and, this is gonna be great for your career. And, yeah, it's all this BS, right? Yeah.
it's yeah. It's to be honest, this is maybe getting a bit of hot water, but I like comedians, and for the most part, I love the audience, and I don't mind most venues. But the people that I don't like the most in comedy are venues. As a comedy promoter, I find them the
So what are
most
you
that I
are
hit the
you a
most.
comedy promoter?
I'll at the moment, as I've not been gigging that much, I'll
Mhm.
say that for now. For now.
Okay. Well, here's what I gotta I do every Tuesday in Los Angeles around noontime. I do an Insta Live where I help people. I do coaching. I write jokes for people. I give career advice. I just make myself available. And this guy goes, "Hey, I'm producing a comedy show, and I'm gonna keep, like, who's on it. They're really great comics, but I'm gonna keep it a secret because I think that'll be really good. And we've only sold 2 tickets since in 4 days. What do I do?" Here's the thing about comedy. Here's the secret to promotion. If you go, "I'm promoting a comedy show, and people are really funny," and that's your hook, you're not gonna sell any tickets. But if you go and you do a show within a specific niche that you're involved with, you will sell a lot of tickets. Like, for instance, I did a show uh, with called Pickleball Comedy. Pickleball is very huge here in Los Angeles. I belong to a pickleball club. They have a 1,500 person mailing list. We sold out 3 shows within, 4 hours. Totally sold out, 3 shows, and, packed. Absolutely packed because comedy there's so many comedians now that you really have to find a niche and double down on that niche, and you could have a fine career. There's a lot of people who are worth millions of dollars. Some of the richest comedians are people you've never heard of because they're famous within a niche. And that's what I'm writing about is I've ascertained that there are 11 niches that you can make a
Uh-huh.
living in and to stick to one of those. And then once you get whatever the gig is, you can do whatever you want. But that's the way to get yourself your followings, your fans. People go out and buy tickets. And that is what comedy's all about now, niching yourself.
Uh, Without going to full detail because you want to sell the book, what are the 11 niches in a short summary?
Oh, what are the 11 niches? Okay. Well, off the top of my head, or I could go look at the book, but off the top of my head, the first niche to start with, a lot of comics all go, when do I quit my day job? Well, we live in an economy that's not like, oh, I'm now going to do comedy full time. We don't live in in an economy of this or that. We live in an economy of this and that and that. One has to develop multiple income streams. So the place to look first in your niche is where you work. And where you work can be your niche. I'll give you an example. There's a guy named Nurse Blake. He's only 28 years old, and he's worth right now way over $12 million, US dollars. I don't know what that is in pounds, but what he did was he just started doing funny stuff at work about his niche, put it up on Instagram, started getting all these followers. Next thing you know, he has all these followers and they're all nurses. And his humor is very specific to jokes about scrubs, jokes about putting in a catheter, jokes, nursing jokes, jokes about the gloves, just about nursing. Anyway, he went on a 65 city tour. He sells out 1,500 seat theaters. Okay. He just like put a whole thing on a cruise ship, invited nurses, and sold out entire huge cruise ship. He got a deal to write a children's book on what? Oh, how to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse when I grow up. And so that is an example of taking your job. There's a lot of comics who work in tech because you're working in tech. You start doing shows just for maybe your coworkers or conventions or things within your niche. And it's next thing you know, you're emceeing award banquets. Next thing you know, you're doing corporate gigs. Next thing you know, then you can quit your day job. But it's really about focusing in on a specific need. So job is one of them. I'll give you one more example. Is one another example is religion. Um, Tim Hawkins, do you know he's worth over $20 million? He's a Christian comic, and he gets. I'm sorry, all my pricing is in U.S. dollars, but he gets about 160,000 a gig. And he
Oh,
performs in churches. Then he sells merch. 1 2-minute YouTube video on raising hands, like how people in churches raise their hand, furnished over 4.6 million views. And that means royalties of a lot of money in royalties. So people want their comedy, in a to reflect their lives. So if you're a comic and you can um, write material about a very specific niche, people would love to see it. It's just you can get popular and start getting paid working organizations. Um, I think Joe Croy, a famous Filipino comic. So he started off just doing Filipino jokes, and he went to a Filipino fish market to perform. He brought a little stage, he set it up, and he got his loyal following because that's what you've got to do. That's what comedy's all about right now. Niche it.
It's about yeah, it's answering the question, why does it matter to them?
Yeah, people want to know about their own lives. You know, huge is like girls' night out is a huge thing. I've done so many shows where a smaller community, has a night out for the girls sponsored by the local hospital. Huge. I mean, it's just huge. And they pay really good money because they have corporate sponsors and you get to do an hour, material. Most of the time it has to be clean. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's just so great when you can fall into a niche and get paid, and there's nothing like a big fat check afterwards.
And how did you what was the process I mean, what was the process you went through to get all your research for the making money in comedy? Apart from just being in the industry, how did you because getting the information is hard enough, but putting it all together into something that's easy for, I don't know, every Tom, Dick, and Harry to understand. That must be the hardest part of writing the book.
You're so right, Marvin. Just I first started off with writing a book that was very California woo-woo. Oh, a book about money, just, manifest and get a prosperity mindset. And then I thought, I know comics, they're gonna think this is a bunch of crap. And so I threw it all out and I went, what is the secret? And so I did an enormous amount of research, and certainly AI is incredible for doing research if you check the facts because they're wrong a lot of the times. And so I started finding all of these comedians that I've never heard of and how much they were worth. And I started to dig into that, and I went, "Oh my God, that's the way to do it." So I developed a formula that, you start with developing your niche, and then the book takes you through using AI prompts to help you find specific economic opportunity. Because, like, for instance, one of the niches is mental health. Because there's a lot of comics who do. Maria Bamford is one comic. um, Taylor Tomlinson does stuff about being bipolar, and there's a lot of comedians who do stuff about, their OCD or ADD, and that is such a great search word on Instagram or TikTok, or narcissistic personality disorder, or that's huge. And so I've developed in my book a lot of AI prompts that you can use to make sure that the niche you pick is that you can make a living doing that.
Have you heard of the person called Lee Hammock or something? He's someone that was diagnosed as a narcissist, and there's quite a few of those on YouTube where they diagnose a narcissist and people use him for narcissistic advice. I was just thinking, what would a comedian who is officially diagnosed as a sociopath, psychopath, or narcissist, and they openly said it, they said, "Come to my show," would that sell? Do you think?
Well, it depends what kind of content they're putting on social media. Like, there's a lot of people who come ask me questions. I'm a narcissist. Yeah, it's all about me, 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 me. But what can you do with that? I mean, Are you doing jokes about that? Are you doing like, "Oh my god, Los Angeles, land of profound narcissism. Even the palm trees here are like, look at me, I'm so thin. Look at my fronds, I'm so beautiful." I mean, in LA, everybody's a narcissist. Anyway, so if you can take I don't know, I'm just making up material on top of my head. So if you can start developing material about that, that's a different thing. Because there's one thing about posting online, but if you want people this is the tricky part. That's why I am saying to comics that this is an opportunity for you because there's a lot of people who are teachers and nurses and have mental health issues, but how many of them can be funny? So if you already have talent and you're able to write material and you can make something funny, this is the direction for you to go in to make a living. However, I'm not saying that if you're not funny, you could do this because, matter of fact, a lot of headlining comics are complaining now that the influencers, pack the clubs, but they suck. They bomb. They bomb terribly, because it's a different talent to work a live audience. So to me, I'm kind of reverse engineering, what comedians, their material and what they talk about. So if you're just thinking about going into comedy, rather than getting up and doing a bunch of dick jokes, do something that's going to possibly make you a living. Does that make sense?
Be smart about it. Don't just yeah, be smart about it.
How you pick your material. Yeah.
There's a guest that I had on a podcast called Michael Kutamash. No, Michel Kutamash. He was a well-known physical comedian in Canada. Did really well, but it wasn't his passion. But he says that part of going for the goal, the great thing about it is the journey, and most people just want to focus on the result rather than the journey.
What do you mean the journey? The what journey?
Well, he says it's who you become on the way is the big thing, rather than just the actual. People don't want they don't they just want the result, but they don't want the development that goes along the way with it.
Well, you can't help but develop when you're doing stand up. I mean, even if you bomb, that's part of the journey. You cannot get good without bombing because if you keep doing the same stuff that works, you're not going to grow. So, um, doing comedy is what I found for the people who are successful is that they just keep on, they don't quit. You can't fail if you don't quit. So, the first book that I ever wrote on comedy, I mean, I'm on my ninth book. My books are extremely successful. They're sold worldwide. But my first book was rejected by 59 agents.
Whoa.
59. Number 60 scored. So, then I got published and then, it became a big deal. But, you just got to believe in what you do and keep going forward. I don't think if you're a comedian, you have any choice in this matter. You just got to do it.
Yeah. What was the? But what you're getting at is yeah, you got to find your market. But are you also saying you got to be very niche? But ignore what I've said there. What am I on about? Ignore that. I've had a long day. Let's change the topic from there. So with if someone's a new comic and they've just started, they've probably been going less than 5 years and they're struggling to find their voice or make their way, and they're actually smashing a lot of rooms and they're doing really well, and they're like getting
And they're a
spots
new
at top.
comic and they're smashing rooms. They're doing well. Wow.
Well, in 5 years, in
Okay.
5 years,
Okay. Okay.
after 5 years, they're starting to make headway and they're starting to do spots, but they're not getting paid, but they're still not happy with what their voice is. How would your book help them to be more profitable?
More profitable? You mean to make a living doing it?
Yeah. How would it take them closer? Actually, no, let's rephrase the question. If you're this will be better.
Okay. You're okay, right? Okay, we don't have to call paramedics. Okay.
You're gonna make me cry, Judy. I'm gonna
Oh,
call my
no.
mummy.
I have that effect on men, but go ahead.
Good. So, if you've been going for around 10 or 20 years and you're smashing every club, but as you said, with some people that are comedians, they're
Mhm.
still living in a van. What are the key cornerstones that your book addresses? Like the 5 things that would help them?
Okay, alright. Well, um, here's the thing. Clubs are incredible for trying out material, and you've gotta do them. And if you're a beginning comic, you gotta get up, and you gotta go to some club, and you have to have that stage time in front of a live audience because that really is absolutely crucial. But we're all about social media right now. I mean, you have to develop your fan base on social media, and you have to do it in a way where you understand their pain points, and that becomes a part of your material. So, and again, in my book, I know comics are a little lazy on the research. So I just used a lot of here, put this into AI and it'll really help you find the pain points, right? And then I go, okay, so let's say you're going to perform for let's say hospitality industry. Let's say you're a waitress, you're a waiter, right? You know it. You've been waiting, you know all the ins and outs of that. There's a lot of money to be made in the hospitality industry. I've done many gigs myself in the hospitality industry. They hire a lot of comedians. They have really boring conventions. How great to have a funny waitress or waiter, you know, get up and give some advice on how to be funnier at your job to get more tips. Like to me, that's a really great thing. And so to do that, start doing a Instagram just for waiters. But engage them, have a relationship, find other funny waiters, put together a show about wait staff, of just waiter comics. I mean, make it your thing. And that's the way to do it. It's just um there is a surplus. People think that, like, there's no comedy jobs, but there is a surplus of people with money who wanna pay funny people, uh, to perform to their people. You just gotta figure out which is your niche.
Okay, but yeah, you talk a lot about niches, but what else do you kind of cover in terms of like a starter point? If it can, we mentioned this before, and comedians, they're terrible admin, and I'd say they're not good with money. What is a starter kit from your book in terms of helping comedians become more profitable if they're smashing every gig?
Okay. Well, first of all, um there's 5 elements to making money being funny. Number 1 is niche. Number 2 is your fan base, your audience. And you need to do what I call an FBI, a funny background investigation. Who are they? What's on their mind? How do you make that funny? Okay? Number 3, the third element, once you figure that out, you start posting. You post and you do, and you look and see, hey, what's getting the most hits? Like, I'll give you a little for instance about that. I've been posting. I don't have a lot of followers, but I did one post about having a heart attack. Okay. That post went and I'm fine and everything. It was minor. But I posted on it because I didn't have any symptoms and I did it as um a public service announcement to women. Like, "Hey, women, you don't have heart attacks." Like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die." Mine was like, "I think I have a little indigestion." And it was funny, and it got thousands and tens of thousands and thousands of views on TikTok. Okay, so guess what I do? I then pitch to the American Heart Association that hires funny speakers for their events. They pay pretty, really good money for that. And then I pitch myself and put on my website as there's nothing funny about a heart attack that Judy Carter isn't going to talk about. So that's how it works. You see, that's your platforms. Then the next step, the fourth element. So I'll go over the elements. You have your niche. Here's one. You have your audience. That's two. You have your platforms. That's three. The fourth is a brand. You develop a quirky brand. Doing just, can't stand up isn't enough. You have to put something into it. Like I do stand up with motivation and stand up with stories. You have to do something to make it a quirky brand. Like a lot of people will do maybe music and stand up or, do visuals. Some comics do that. So it's like, what's going to make you different and make you stand out? And that's a really big deal. So finding your quirky brand by, putting stuff in. Like for instance, someone who's hit it really hot here is Jessie Curson. And Jessie does crowd work. She's a New York comic, and she, tapes her little venues, and it's all crowd work. It's all about her talking to the audience, and that makes her different. She's not just doing, stand up, she's doing dialogue with the audience, and it's all spontaneous, and she's wonderful. Then the last element is you cannot just rely on performing. Shit happens. COVID happens. What do you do? There's times where performing dries up. You have to have multiple income streams. So that means a combination of writing for other people, of coaching, of workshops, writing books, things like that. And especially things like a book you own because you work really hard on it, but then you get royalties the rest of the year. So I think that those are the 5 elements of, how this works.
What if they're physical comic and they don't write jokes?
You mean like Steve Martin or like Arrow Prop Comics or
So do you know Vigo Venn from Britain's Got Talent?
No, we don't get that show here. I'm sorry. Is it
Well, but he's quite viral in YouTube and all of that. But he's famous for dressing up in what's it called? Yellow vest, and he takes it off and he does a stupid dance. And
Well,
he
let's
won.
talk about one of my favorite British comics who I pay to go see is Eddie Izzard. Okay, so let's talk about Eddie Izzard. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Eddie Izzard performs in women's clothing, or he used to. I mean, he was way ahead before that we even understood what non-binary meant. So Eddie Izzard did stand up, and he appealed to, um, well, he first of all, he's a brilliant historian, so that's kind of different. So he does stuff about history, and he does it in women's clothing, which so appealed to the LGBTQ community. So he had that going for him. But he's exactly what I'm talking about. Adding physicality, adding props, whatever you want to add to it, let yourself express yourself. Don't feel limited from just doing stand up. Add something to it. You want to do a magic trick? Go to it. You wanted to add puppets to it? Why not? Do anything you can, to mix in something that would make you stand out.
What if they get criticism from people in their local circuit for being different and not being like around them. So if there's some
Criticism from who?
other comics, what if other comics like really rip into them and this and like people around them? Or I
Oh my
know
god. If I stop doing what I'm doing because another comic criticizing comics, that's their job. They criticize. I once had a student who was just, she sang hilarious, funny songs. And somebody said to her, "Oh, that's not right. You just should do comedy. That's like a crutch." So she stopped and her career went nowhere. And I went like, "Oh my God, don't listen to any comic." You know, I think there's ways to figure out if what you're doing hits right now with the analytics on social media. They'll tell you who your demographics are. They'll tell you, who's watching you, who likes you, and like do it for them. When I write a book, I'm only thinking about my audience. I'm thinking about, my people. And that's the only people I care about.
how do they ignore the noise of people saying, you know, in London, there's the top secret. You got the Comedy Store, and you got the Soho theatres for more creative and wacky acts. And if you want to get in a lot of the big clubs, you got to be a gong show comic to an extent with some of them.
Uh-huh.
If you're new, what would you say to comics that are very different to other comics, but what they do works?
I, don't- I have no judgment on comics. The audience will tell you. Who am I to judge another comic? I mean, it doesn't matter. The audience will tell you what works. I mean, Andy Kaufman would come out and just read a book on stage and then take a nap. Okay. It's just like, and he certainly got noticed and there was a lot of excitement because we hadn't seen before performance artists. Hey, here's something interesting. There's this young comic. His name is he's a young African American comic named Kenny Brooks. He's a sales guy.
Okay.
One of his videos went so viral, 800,000 hits on it. And what it is you know how what where he performs his comedy? Knocking on people's door. He knocks on a stranger's door and he sells them a shoe cleaner. And he's so friggin' funny doing it that he gets all sorts of works. He just shoots himself on people's doors selling the shoe cleaner. It goes viral on social media. And then when he does a gig, a lot of people show up because they love him. He got Tony Robbins, who is a big motivational speaker, hired him. And now he speaks at sales conventions, showing how to use comedy to help sales. I don't know. I think the straight way of doing comedy is over. Of just like, hey, I'm going to go to a club. I'm going to be really funny and I'm going to get discovered. No, you're not. It's not the way it works anymore. It just isn't. And if it does, maybe it can't last. You always have to develop multiple income streams to keep things going.
So you're saying embrace your weirdness.
Huh?
You're saying that people should embrace their weirdness.
To embrace weirdness, absolutely.
For all so you said that, what was it like being with Andy Kaufman? Have you performed with him?
He's dead.
No, but before, did you perform with him
Yeah,
before?
yeah.
What was that like?
It was a very exciting time in comedy with a lot of really exciting comics coming up and performing with Robin Williams and Andy and Billy Crystal and all those guys. Those were I was really young then. And it just was very exciting times where people seemed like they were really original and not just, doing obvious stuff. It was very exciting.
Okay. And so through that time and through now and through writing your book, where do you see comedy going?
Well, I'm oh, yeah. I see it going where people only see comedy that they agree with, you know, that people aren't going to risk going out of the house and seeing a show where they're gonna be offended or they're I mean, I walked out of a show just last week, and it was Netflix Presents, and some of the comics to me, I thought were so friggin' sexist. I walked out, I thought, "I don't need to hear this shit. This is like, what? This is offensive to me." Um, and, not only do I not think it's funny, I think it's hostile to women, and I just don't wanna see it. So, I think people are a little more careful of where they spend their money to go see someone to make sure it's just gonna be a fun night and make sure it's not gonna be something that's going to, where they're gonna go like, I wanna go home. I'm better in bed." So I think that's why it's really important to really establish your brand and who you are and find your audience who will really love seeing you and not walk out of your show.
Um, what what do you make of? I don't know much about the festivals that go in America, but in Australia and in Edinburgh, they got loads of like festival comedians who have built their own unique audience through their uniqueness. Like you got Stuart
Mhm.
Lee, you got Daniel Kitson. But in America, is there gonna be like there is perhaps in the UK where there's festival comedians that mostly focus on a
Well,
festival as well?
let me ask you about that. Do comedians get a career from festivals or from winning a festival or for what's your opinion on that?
It's done so some comedians who don't really do circuit, but have done well in festivals, it's helped them a great deal. I mean, they get to go to the Soho Theatre, sell out there, sell a lot of tickets, they get to do a tour and make money through tickets.
Mhm,
But in
mhm.
terms of, getting on TV, I don't know about that, but in terms of, like, getting an audience that pay for their work and go and follow them and making a bit more money, I think the festivals do a great job at that.
Yeah, I think Edinburgh is, like, amazing. Of course, the competition's ferocious there, but I'm a huge fan of what's the comic's name who, um, performed there and then ended up with a series called Baby Reindeer?
Oh, Richard Gadd, yes, there's so much that went
Oh,
on there.
yeah, Gads, yeah. Now I understand, so let's just look at this sorta thing, what he did. This was a solo show more than stand-up, although he is a funny guy, but very dark, and it was a story about him being sexually assaulted and stalked by this woman, and I understand that he performed it on a treadmill at Edinburgh. So, if you look at these elements of what he did, it was really astounding. First of all, he schlepped a treadmill to Edinburgh and and then did an hour of running while or walking while he told his story, but then it was converted into such a brilliant, brilliant series about a and it wasn't that funny, but it was about, a pretty bad comedian, who had this happen to him, and, um so that just tells me one thing in specifically, which is that obviously we all have things in our life that have had a profound effect on us. And sometimes those things call to us to present them either as stand up, as long form story, as a theater piece, as a motivational speech or whatever it does, or, a memoir book or something. And I am such a believer that if you're a creative person, you need to follow through on that instinct because that show, what he did, was so authentic and so revealing. And I think the show was called something about a monkey on my back or so. It was something he couldn't shake, obviously. And he had a lot of shame about it. And it took a lot of courage. So anybody listening to this, if you have something that is really scary to talk about, that's what you should be doing. And that the festivals are a great place to do it.
What if it makes people walk out? What if they get offended by it?
What do you mean?
What
What if?
if it's about fine and doing that, but
Hey,
what
listen, stand up and be an artist is not people pleasing. If you try and please everybody in the audience, you will fail. You have to please yourself as an artist. You have to do things that are authentic to you. And if you keep trying to please somebody in the audience and they walk out, you don't know if they walked out because they hated you or it was indigestion. There is a movement here in comedy. If something offends me because it's, to me, they're misogynists and they're hateful to women and they're joking and they're doing like, hitting below the belt. You know what? There's an audience of of people who will pay to see that. So, but I don't want to. So it I think it's irrelevant. That's why I think it's really important to know your audience.
builds your niche? Yeah, I think the only thing that we seem to be getting into a lot at the moment is if someone doesn't like it, they try and people should be, depending on how severe it is, we as comedians, we got to make mistakes to learn. And
I don't
we
think
have
they're
to,
mistakes. I think all our mistakes are material. I mean, I look at one of my students from Australia, Hannah Gatsby, won an Emmy here for her show. And, she's non binary. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And I think she's brilliant. So it just has to do with, um, you being authentic to yourself and you will find your audience.
and for anyone that is listening in right now, um, what is the best way to get in contact with you? And what is the best way to get your book?
Well, I have a website, as everybody does, judycarter.com. It's just my name. And and I serve my community every Tuesday. I'm available in a Instagram live, and we have a lot of people from the UK and from all over the world attend this, and it's super fun. We do writing exercises. We have a good time. We talk comedy, and you never know what's going to happen.
Okay. And if there are three comedians that aren't famous and that represent everything that your new book talks about perfectly, who would they be, and how do they go and find out about them?
That they're not famous, but they're rich. You're
Yeah,
talking
and
about
they
who's,
creative, and
huh?
people should go and see.
Oh, well, I don't know if you should go see them. It's interesting. Like for instance, one of my students is a teacher, right? She's a teacher, and she had quit because she went on the board teachers tour, and there's a whole tour of teachers, and they play to huge theaters, and it's super fun. If you're not a teacher, you might not find it so funny. So these things are very specific. So in my book, I talk about many different people from people who are one of my students, Maz Jobrani, who's an American Iranian, and oh my God, he's absolutely hysterical, and he does all his material about being Iranian, which is very big right now, and he would be certainly someone to watch.
Okay. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed Judy Carter, and I'll see you guys at the next episode.